IVM.
Hey, welcome to Shunya One, episode 73. Today we have with us Sairee Chahal.
We also have with us Shiladitya&nbsp to do the introduction.
I know. It's always good to be here on intro day. And of course, happy to, sort of introduce this episode to you. We had a fun conversation.
Yes, we did.
And Sairee is going to talk to us about a whole bunch of things she does in her startup, Sheroes.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we've got some good feedback as well from last week's episode.
Yes, we do. We did some stuff on the Slack channel, and we also had a poll, and we got quite a bit of response in the poll, right? So we asked the question, what do you think would make for the ideal internet chatbot? The reply should be quick and answers to the point was the first answer. It should make you feel that you're talking to humans was the second answer. And the third was the reply should be in the language of your preference. And the biggest answer was by far the first one, that the answer should be quick and to the point. So I guess that everybody just doesn't want to spend much time talking to chatbots.
Yeah, where's my food, Swiggy?
And that's all you want to know.
That's all you want to know.
It's on the way.
It's on the way.
The food is in the mail.
Yes, awesome. But apart from that, I think thanks to everyone who is showing us a lot of Twitter love and feedback on the platform. Shout out to Abhishek, who just posted in saying that he's got some good episodes heard of our show.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, hope you guys keep listening onwards to today's show. All right, welcome to episode 73 today with Sairee. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me here.
Yes, thank you so much for making it. I know I've caught you first thing in the morning on your trip to Bombay.
It's perfect.
And before you head to the traffic of the city, I think it's time for a good chat.
No, this is a good thing to start the day.
Yes, absolutely. And of course, while we talk about starting the day, you're obviously here for a whole bunch of things you're doing with Sheroes.
Yeah.
And the platform's been around and growing massively for some time now. Why don't you tell us a bit about the story of how it all came to be?
Right. So I think every year Sheroes changes. Like every year it's been a different company. But I think there's a pre-Sheroes. I think that's where I should kind of start. So pre-Sheroes was called Flexi Moms. Mm-hmm. And I think the seeds of Flexi Moms go to 1999. When I got to do my first venture. And, that was the time when the first .coms was happening, India Internet World. So we didn't know terms like startups or venture capital or exits. But it so happened that I got a chance to build a startup thanks to somebody's idea, somebody's money, but I got to be like the first person on the team and build something out. And that company got acquired, we exited. It's only once that process had finished, I learned there's something called an exit.
Wow.
So it was interesting times, but I think what I got to see very close was the power of internet and the power of technology and the power of building products. Mm-hmm. And I think that sort of stayed with me. And after that company got acquired, I did my corporate stints. I went and worked the CII, worked internationally a bit. But I guess the growth of internet had sort of been like in my mind. It's something that was always there, top of mind. When I did my first startup, I was 21. When you're very early in your career, you don't see gender as a barrier. Mm-hmm. But as you keep growing up your own ladder and you keep doing things start to sort of, become more clearer to you. And somewhere around the line, two themes just stayed in my mind. One was, how internet and technology and products are really game-changing. And it's still as exciting. Even today when I get up, I just feel, just supremely excited about, what products can do and how consumers interact with them. And the second was a theme of women. When I was 20, had you asked me, are you going to work in the space of women or gender, or are you going to build a women-only space? I'd have probably said, no, never. Like, what are you saying? But, as a small town girl who made it through her career, and then, of course, having seen what I saw through my own career, both in terms of the potential, but also the parity, I I always felt internet can be more powerful than this. So FlexiMoms was the first seed of that thought. It was not thought through in terms of what it's going to be, but it was just like a ugly .NET page which had 2 forms, and women could come and sign up, and companies could sort of interact with them. But that really took off. It just sort of like went overboard. We could barely sort of manage it with the time and money we had. But that led to Sheroes. And the idea of Sheroes was very, very simple. Internet can be a far more constructive experience for women. So, I always say that internet is a bit like our streets. It's like walking on public roads for women. It's still suboptimal, and it's still... They can be much more, right? So like if you're a woman and you search, let's say, you just search for the keyword women, one, you will find a lot of shopping websites, which is fine, but there's more to women and there's more to our own aspiration. Or you'll find a lot of what I call partly spammy, abusive content, right? Like you read those YouTube comments, you see Twitter trolling. So it's still the experience of public streets and the internet is pretty much the same. So I always believe that internet can be a powerful, constructive experience. And the good thing is, when Sheroes started in 2014, Jio hadn't launched. WhatsApp was still like a new thing on the block. But the growth of Jio plus WhatsApp has really helped us. These 2 things got women online. There's a whole generation of women, some, 70, 80 million women who got to experience technology as a personal tool and not as a family laptop or a TV or common radio. It's not a shared tool. This is their own device. And this is for the first time in history in India that women are seeing personalized access. So Sheroes kind of like, we're kind of riding on that now because, it just changed the game for us. Sheroes is basically 1, we are a women-only space. 2, we are a safe space. 3, we are a constructive space. And we are building it via communities of interest. So there's something for every woman out there. And the platform allows you to sort of really find your own aspiration. So whether your aspiration is something as simple as I will learn English every day, or I'll become like a data scientist, or I will be the best beauty blogger, or whatever that aspiration is, Sheroes kind of fuels that via the community it has built.
Wow.
So in some ways, we like Reddit because Reddit built a community. It was a little bro and, a little ugly, but still it did a good job. So we take a little inspiration from there. And then, of course, there's a post-Geo world where we're saying, hey, this is the new experience of the internet for women.
Wow. And, of course, that's such an amazing story that you built it with this, this core idea in mind.
Yeah.
And I love the analogy of our streets and the internet. I think that's so...
It's so simple,
so
right?
simple, and this really hits the nail on the head there. How have you seen it evolve, though? How have you seen it change?
So actually, when we started, we were a jobs and careers community. We had a very single focus. So we took jobs and we said, okay, let's put everything that a jobs and careers community might need. So we got 20,000 companies to sign up. We built a mentor board of about 1,200 mentors available to talk to our members. We had content. We started a helpline. And actually that helpline gave us it became this big tool, learning tool for the company itself. Women's, so it started as a phone helpline, then it became a chat helpline. But that's where we learned everything that our users wanted. We learned what women are asking, what are their issues, what do they want to talk about, what are they fighting, what do they want to be. So the evolution happened because we learned so much about the users. So from one community, very focused on jobs and careers, we went to become women-only communities platform. And we said, hey, we got to sort of broaden this a bit for 2 reasons. One, work is fundamentally changing, so corporate jobs are the slowest growing segment of the economy today. Yeah. But gigs, micro-entrepreneurial work, online retail, these are sort of fast-growing segments of the economy. Right. And that's also what we are writing now, because a lot of our communities represent what we call micro entrepreneurs and gig workers and home chefs and bloggers and photographers and people who make art and craft and a whole plethora of activities. So that's how we've transitioned in our own journey, where we said, hey, this is for everyone, and this is for even people. So we divide all of this into 3 parts. So one is what we call creative communities. And creative communities are, the artists and the bloggers and the writers and the poets, travel bloggers, home chefs, all of that. And there are communities around these.
Right.
Second is commerce, which is, home-based resellers. We know India has 20-30 million women who work from home. They sell to their local sort of, their own communities and their own network. And there's a lot of action there from various aspects, right? From the big guys to the new age, app-based work. There's a lot of action there, so which means the category is growing. And third is what we call counseling, support, advice. So I come here because I'm a mom with a child with autism. I come here because I'm a new mom. I have a baby, the baby's not sleeping. I want to talk to someone. I am somebody who took a career break. I'm somebody who's going to face a competitive exam for the first time. I'm somebody who just broke up with a boyfriend, or I'm someone whose parents are marrying her off, against the wishes. So these are all sort of support communities. And you come here because the thing that I learned in last so many years is that for women, life is one. It's one thesis. It flows into one and goes into another. Work, play, support all happen in the same zone. And that's what Sheroes represents. When I come here, I'm me as a professional, but I'm also me as a mom, and I'm also me as like this fun, trippy person who has like a pink side or a purple side or whatever.
Yeah, I think there's no stopping. There's no hours of the day you can be one or the other.
Yeah.
You're always...
Yeah. I always say when a woman walks into a room, she brings all of herself. And this is a fun experiment we run a lot of times, and we made a board do it. So we ran it for our board meeting. We called some of our members and we said, just come and introduce yourself. And it's funny how when a guy walks into the room, he'll start with his CV. He'll read his LinkedIn profile to you, right? When a woman will walk in, she will have a very different sense of identity. So one, it'll be attached to her family, or it'll be attached to where she comes from, where she wants to go, what she loves doing, and then, some of the professional aspects will come in. So it's not like that she's sort of not including it, but she's got like a bigger canvas to play on. And we made this, this whole exercise for our board members just so that they got a sense of what are we trying to do, And the other thing we learned is, we all know loneliness is sort of like everyone's epidemic, but I think women in India are supremely lonely. While you may be in joint families and husbands and relatives and the peers and everything else, I think as a person, you're very, very lonely because you have too much going on. You are all these people, but who you are is kind of, it always gets lost. The story of recognizing yourself. Mm-hmm. So the thing we realized is every other social network out there is for other people. LinkedIn, you go to for professional peers. Facebook is in-laws and family and the whole khandan. Twitter is definitely not really like anyone's friends network, but it's still, interest groups. Sheroes is a me space. Me who won't be judged for what she wants or where she wants to go and how good her English is or how bad her attire is or, any of those parameters. Yeah. So it's really a non-judgmental space where you can be you, and that you can be someone as simple as, a housewife in Bharuch or, somebody who runs a beauty parlor in Trichy or somebody who says, I run a solo women travelers club. So it's really like a melange.
Wow. And you'd not think about the fact that you need a sort of space like this, right? You think when you mentioned the examples of social networks and them being for other people, it is a projection of what we try to make whether professionally or personally or Instagram.
Absolutely, the good life, right? So you always preparing to be judged.
Yeah.
Right, those are spaces where you will get judged, and of course it's now been, that whole process of judging has been gamified,
right?
But the truth is, it's really hard for somebody to say, hey, I have skin rash, can you tell me what this is? Or my breasts are not producing enough milk for a new mom, I feel guilty. Or I'm not happy with my husband, but I live in a joint family, what can I do?
Wow.
Or I make enough money, but I want to write a book and take a break, or, do something else. So that's the whole thing, and we are seeing a lot of narrative in the movies change around that, right? Like Lipstick in the Under My Book.
Yeah.
There's a whole, this is the narrative of women in India. Right, and it's the same narrative everywhere. We are seeing a fun trend come in, like Lahore is bigger than Patna on our network. Kathmandu is the sixth largest city.
Wow.
Dhaka is growing by leaps and bounds. So we figured the countries with similar stories of women, Indonesia, Philippines, South Asia, Middle East, Nigeria, strangely, is growing in a funny way. So it's the same narrative. It's the need for space, it's the recognition, it's all of my life, I'm not going to be judged for my choices, and I can be me.
Wow. And it's literally a space for all these answers, right? Whether
it's a space, yes. It's a space to share, so it's something as simple as, you made vegan dokla for breakfast. You can just put that picture up, and I promise you will never put that picture on any other social network, but it'll go to Sheroes. Or, you want to get up and ask a difficult question that you might have, or you might just want to share a poem or a song, or whatever your day is like, whatever mood you're in, you'll find somebody to sort of talk about it. And then we are seeing some, like, the communities that are doing well, like we have a writers community, it's called Aspiring Writers. There are 1 lakh writers there, and they're all giving each other critique and feedback, and they're all in small towns. Most of this action's coming in tier 2, tier 3, where you won't find like a large peer group of writers. Right. There's a health community which is very active. There is love and relationships. Everyone's basically lonely and brokenhearted. So there's a lot of sort of sharing over there. The commerce communities, peer to peer, about 1 lakh women on commerce communities, out of which 6,000 sell, which means both buyers and sellers have found each other without us really designing the product for it. We're now sort of acting on it, but clearly, users start using platforms in ways you could have never imagined.
Correct.
So some of this thing is playing out in like a real fun way. And then, of course, big communities around travel. Women are beginning to travel solo in India. Like, it's a new thing.
Yeah.
And we see, the 21, 22-year-olds, everyone's wish list is to travel the world first, right? Before they get married, it's like, get all the taste of freedom. It's the DDLJ effect.
Yeah.
But it clearly is like, it's a thing.
Yeah.
And so each community has its own vibe. It has its own little tribe. Like, there's a small group for gardeners and, people who love, their kitchen gardens and their vegetables and stuff. So they're doing their own thing. They're moms with disabilities. And now we're beginning to bring in partner communities. The whole women's movement is full of organizations who've done brilliant work, right? So right from Nanni Kali to Nandi Foundation to Educate Girls to Seva, their communities as well, except they're not online. Right. So we're now bringing them to Sheroes. We're incubating their communities and we're offering them the same access. And one of the things that's the funnest part of Sheroes is our helpline. So we run something called Ask Sheroes. It's available on our app and on our web. And you can just go in there and it works like WhatsApp. But when you talk to that window, there's a counselor in the back end. There's a trained counselor available to you 6 days a week, and you can talk about anything. And that, and when we take this access and offer it to, let's say, adolescent girls in Western UP, or to Educate Girls, or to the Seva women, it just sort of makes it just gives them a support system, like, in a minute.
Wow. Yeah, and you'd not think that this sort of movement, right? The other names you mentioned. Women empowerment has always been a big theme for the country, I know, and there have been these groups and everything doing this in pockets.
Yeah.
But what you've done to sort of bring it online is give them direct access.
Absolutely.
Instead of via...
Yeah. See, all these people have done a lot of grassroots work, and their impact's huge. I think we're just creating online access for them, but we're also bringing in the entire network together, so they can learn from each other, they can share, they can be part of the mainstream, right? Like why should somebody invest in UP be sort of left out, right? And it again, it's all thanks to post WhatsApp universe.
Wow. That's an awesome story.
Yeah, I know. I mean, there's a lot there to just think about in general.
Yes. All right. Thanks. I mean, I think we're just going to take a quick break, come back and talk some more, get into this. Yeah.
Hey, it's been another great week on IVM Podcast. If you're not following us on social media, please do. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Also, please do spread the word about podcasting. You are our biggest ambassadors. If you tell somebody to listen to a podcast, that is the way that we're going to grow this space. This week on Simplified, the Simplified gang breaks down the funda of oil prices and why India pays so much for fuel. This week on Cyrus Says, Cyrus is joined by writer and film personality Raj Grover. He regales us with stories from partition and the heyday of Indian cinema of the 50s and 60s. On the Pragati podcast, Pawan and Hamsani discuss the government regulations that make the lives of restaurateurs difficult in Bangalore. They've got a really special guest. Manu Chandra is on that along with Madhu Menon. This week on IVM Likes, IVM staffers Janam, Abbas and Surbi sit down and talk about movies that didn't live up to the hype. Last week, the Rediscovery podcast went live with their 4th season. Listen to the first episode as Ambika and Hoshna talk about quitting their jobs for traveling and is it for everyone. On Shunya One this week, Shiladitya and I speak to Sairee Chahal. She is the founder of Sheroes, which is India's largest online community for women. This was another really, really interesting talk. And with that, let's get you on with your show.
All right, welcome back. I think we got a lot of stuff there about how you've been building the platform, and obviously you and your team have been working to mold the product to react to how your users have been using it.
Absolutely.
And over time, apart from the fact that so many more women have come online and they're asking all these questions and you're building these various communities around it.
Right.
What else have you seen? Like from a technology standpoint, how have you seen this platform do things which all these other groups before couldn't? Or there are platforms for specific topics and like mother care and all of this, but how do you see yourselves as a broad platform address this for so many women on?
Right. So I think one of the beauty of the platform is that you can be who you want to be, and in some ways we see ourselves as a journey platform. I come here every day and I, take up from this. And I think simple analogy would be anybody who's done yoga practice or singing practice. It's basically practice that takes you to the next level, but it does it so subtly that it's only after a period of time you realize how far have you come. Mm-hmm. And we've seen that play out in some of our communities. For example, there's a community called Aspiring Writers. Now, Aspiring Writers wasn't on our plan. We thought, how product managers think. We always say, not a big market segment. Maybe there'll be 20,000 writers in this country or whatever. But you know what? Members came and said, hey, we want to start writing. I love writing. I want to blog. Can you guys set up a community? So we've done a lot of communities because people came and asked. Yeah. So same thing happened. And then every day these people would do writing prompts and give each other feedback. And then somebody would become like their mentor, self-appointed mentors. How communities sort of become these organic systems. And then we created a partnership with Juggernaut and we said, hey, these are first-time writers. Why don't we sort of do something which would allow them to publish? So we ran a simple initiative. So women who are literally housewives in small towns wrote their stories and submitted. Some 300-400 of them submitted. We selected 20 and that became a book.
Oh,
so,
wow.
So these are sort of things playing out from within communities.
And these are multiple languages, local language, Hindi, English.
Yeah, so this started in English, but now what we're saying is users have taken over in the languages they want to speak in. So we have Marathi, we have Bengali, we have Hindi. We are building a vernacular stack thanks to users. So initially, it's funny how users hack things. We didn't have the script available to post. So people would write on paper, take a photo, and then post it as an image.
Wow.
And we're like, okay, we got to build it now, because people are posting images of their writings.
Yeah.
So that happened. Similarly, we saw women, because it's a safe space. So one of the features we built is anonymous. So you can post difficult things anonymously and nobody will be able to track you. And we also have very high degree of spam and abuse controls. I think more than actually some of the largest platforms out there. Our investment in building gender detection algos, abuse algos is just phenomenal. I'm going to present a paper one day about this.
Wow.
But because we did this, a lot of women started to come and ask for what they were looking for. Like a lot of women came and said, मैं English सीखना चाहती हूँ. या मैंने 12वीं तक इंग्लिश पढ़ी थी, पढ़ लेती हूँ पर बोल नहीं सकती हूँ. या I want to be more confident in English, right? So then again, same thing happened. We started a community called English Winglish, which is now like a peer community. Every day they have vocab tests and learning comprehension and, some of these fun things that you do while you learn a language. But we are not running it.
Wow.
The community is running it, so they're really there for each other. Our job is to just do a little bit of hygiene control and make sure no abuse happens and tech works all right. But, these are very, very interesting trends.
So you start these communities yourselves, right? It's not, you had compared to Reddit earlier, where Reddit, anybody can start a subreddit.
Yeah, so we will open it out eventually.
Okay.
So today we still control who runs a community.
How heavily moderated are they?
So, not really moderated, but very high degree of spam and abuse control.
Okay.
So all users can report spam. All users can. So there are 4 or 5 things we watch out for. One is, of course, males on the platform, which is like a clear no from a user's perspective. Mm-hmm. So every user can say, "This is a man. Please throw him out." So that's one. And of course, pornographic content, marketing content, a whole lot of non-relevant content. Right. But users do this 95% of the time. Of course, our own moderators are embedded, but they're to make sure that, things work fine. They're really like community managers. Mm-hmm. Today, we still kind of build new communities ourselves, or we work with partners to build new communities. Eventually, we'll open it out. It's just a matter of a few months as there's more maturity in the network.
Wow.
Nice.
And when you say compared to Reddit and its own subreddits, right? I mean, that was just the initial, I think, thought. But what happened to the whole, the other aspect of Sheroes, which was jobs and which was, all of these still exist?
Actually, they do. So what doesn't exist is maybe the same interface. So here's what we did. We created some enterprise products. So ultimately, what was our thesis? Our thesis was, let's sort of put together women and their growth journeys in one space. So it still sort of is part of the narrative, and that's why the whole constructive experience. What we realized was jobs as how we were trying to do it, or has how a lot of people are still trying to do it, is not an efficient model because it won't scale, So for reasons of scale, we converted some of those products into enterprise products. And I'll give you an example. We ran a job board for the longest time. In fact, we just sort of took it off the internet because we figured there are 20,000 companies who come, share jobs, do stuff. Very few of them end up hiring.
Yeah.
Because we don't have control over it, and we are sort of not managing. We're not going full stack,
right.
Which means it's not really a great model from an impact perspective, at least. So what we did was we created more native products. So we have a product called MARS, which stands for Managed Remote Solutions. So the one common thing most women came and asked us was work from home jobs. How do I work remotely? How do I make use of the time that I have? So we created a certification program where we certify women to be remote professionals. So we do like a whole 7 process certification for them, and we say, hey, tell us who you are, what's your skill level, are you internet ready, are you self-managed, are you good on your own? So we run this and they get like a certification. We created a pool of these women and we started going full stack. So today we take complete ownership when a company comes to us. So the person works via Sheroes. For women, getting paid on time was always a big challenge.
Yes.
So we wanted to manage that. We wanted to manage that women got jobs, companies got outcomes. So we went full stack. So today this whole process runs like 100%. Companies get their outcomes, their SLAs, their dashboards,
Nice.
the whole enterprise spiel that you need. And women get paid on time. They get benefits from Sheroes. And that's a community in itself.
Wow.
So we want to do more full stack, more real impact, more efficiency, business efficiency. So some of these things have happened. Then we converted our helpline into a corporate solution. So we run corporate helplines.
Wow.
We run diversity consulting for teams. All that is still sort of, part of a system. And then we work with companies on, the Sexual Harassment Act, how to sort of preempt getting into situations by bringing in more conscious training, more cultural changes, more conversations around gender, all of that. So I think there's a part of Sheroes that still is deeply invested there. The good thing is now we've done it for a while. That whole aspect of business has reached a maturity level where, they're pretty much on autopilot.
And you have the team and obviously the know-how
so the teams,
to
their
run
respective teams manage it. And what we're realizing is that the newer opportunities are now coming in from, the more consumer-facing aspects.
Correct.
And how we sort of trigger them. So, for example, we know there are 2-3 very interesting themes. So one is women's health. Women's health is a universal theme. We have a health community. We know that there is opportunity for us to go deeper there. Commerce is a big opportunity. Similarly, some of these other creative communities, expression communities, we're going to do some work there. So in some ways, it's like having as many apps on one network.
Oh, nice. So I asked because, of course, one of the themes which so when you talk about India's internet story and you see obviously so many millions of people coming online, and we compare and contrast with larger, more mature markets, the one thing which I know has come up repeatedly is the fact that women in India don't represent enough of the workforce from a population standpoint, right?
Absolutely.
And that's one of the biggest challenges going forward for our country to be, more self-reliant, more developed and so on. And obviously you're driving a large factor
so,
of that.
this is like the cell phone story. We can't do landlines, but we can do cell phones.
Correct.
Putting women in corporate jobs is a non-starter. I spent adequate amount of time there. The truth is there's not enough depth within the corporate systems to sort of do the numbers that we need to do. In fact, it's been contrarian in the results that we have seen. I guess we all have to be honest in looking at what does future of work look like. Future of work is clearly entrepreneurial. It's micro. It's short term. Everybody needs to reskill every 6 months, change tracks. And the good thing is a lot of women-centric communities and initiatives traditionally have followed this. Seva came out of this. Amul came out of this. Microfinance movement came out of this. There's a whole narrative around this. And I think we need to be honest and say, how do we create better triggers for women to find those solutions instead of doing cut, copy, paste and saying, we will run a back to work program for 5 managers will work on it and we'll hire 6 women. Like it's annoying and it's so inefficient. So I feel that the opportunity is to ride the new wave. And we're a peculiar country. How on earth will we employ women in workforce, if our public transport doesn't work, if our societal sort of biases are so stark, we're still fighting whether girls should wear jeans or they should have cell phones, which means we really have to hack these. We have to do the cell phone story. We have to bring women solutions which are native to their environments. Whether she lives in a Ludhiana or in a Nagaland or wherever she is, the solution should reach her just like how WhatsApp did. It is so simple that you can't go wrong with it. It is so simple and so native in its approach that, hey, you know what? I know I live in this joint family and my family is not going to give me money to earn or whatever. But you know what? I'm a home chef. I have a YouTube channel. I'm going to do my own thing. Or I make art. I'll start selling art. I do this. So this whole micro-entrepreneurial community-based work is, I think, future of work.
Yeah. Wow. That's such an interesting perspective to this, right? I mean, you'd not think... you'd think we would have to do the cut, copy, paste just to sort of
It's not working. The truth
parity.
is we've been trying cut, copy, paste and see, the biggest truth is the corporate world and the business world is being disrupted like never before, So, I mean, women have been sitting out of this whole story for a long time. What are the odds that we will get in now? So
it's not suddenly that women are going to show up and take up half the jobs in every company or every industry.
Yeah, so there are outliers. There will be few good ones. There'll be some fantastic PR story. Just look at India numbers. I think it still makes a great metro story. It still makes a great GDP story. It makes great PR story. But the truth is, if you're going to impact every woman who's a potential cell phone user, then we have to go very, very contextual in how their lives are, right? Like, the truth is we will only give jobs to women who speak English. How many women in India speak English?
No.
But all women in India are talented. All women in India have some skills. I think we have to design our own solutions and you have to stop looking at the West for solutions.
Yeah. No, absolutely right. I totally agree with you there.
You mentioned some of the kinds of things that people are doing in this space, especially, I mean, like your Mars platform is like around remote
work.
Right. So can you give us some more examples of the kinds of things that you're seeing that people are, or women specifically, are looking at as micro-entrepreneurial kind of ways?
So commerce is a big one. So the Pinduoduo effect, peer-to-peer. I think peer-to-peer is super exciting. Then, a lot of work is being done by women around creating small sustainable boutique brands, right? So, the sub 20 lakh business, there are tons of them. So clearly not VC investable businesses, but definitely bank investable businesses or, lendable businesses. I think those are growing trends. Clearly, a lot of digital entrepreneurship, use my skill to build something online, mini brands, mini influencers, growing in like a mega way.
Wow.
And of course, people sort of using platforms to showcase whether it's an Airbnb or whether it is some of these writing platforms or fashion platforms. So I think a lot of action on those fronts definitely is shaping up. And the good thing is the trickle down of this is that we will see the overall number of women building large, scalable, venture investable businesses go up as well.
You get more experience running a
Basically,
business.
the base of the funnel is getting larger in entrepreneurship, and some of these will become, high aspiration entrepreneurs to say, hey, you guys did this. Or as exposure increases, some of them are going to do some of them. And the other piece that's growing is, a lot of women are now sort of... there was a whole trend around the internet when Upwork and Freelancer came up. But most of the freelancers you found were men. It's slowly changing where women are saying, hey, I can be on my own. I can code on my own time. I can be a UX person. I can be a digital marketer. Like social media management. I think completely run by women. I mean, I don't have data to sort of share with you, but anecdotally, I know there's so many women who just sit out of wherever they sit out of, whether it's Chandigarh or Kohima or wherever, but they run social media accounts for tons and tons of small businesses.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. So I think a lot of that's happening. So one thing we see even in our Mars processes. So just to give you like a idea, we run social media for some very large companies in India, and these are women sitting at home answering tickets on your Facebook or Twitter handle. Why do they need to sit in an office?
Yeah.
Right. Similarly, chances are when you ordered from an e-commerce website or food delivery website, the person on the chat window could be working remote. How does it matter where they sit out of a call center in Gurgaon?
Yeah.
So I think these are some very exciting India first stories.
Yeah.
And, they'll find a space out there.
That's amazing. And I know you spoke about sheer volume of women who are coming onto the platform. What's your target number? What's your big?
So our target number is getting to 100 million women in the next 30 to 40 months. We are 5+ on the network today. We hopefully will close this year at 10 to 12.
Nice.
And growing pretty rapidly. We're adding about 20,000-30,000 women every day.
That's amazing.
And as we do more vernacular, as we do more of investment in the platform, as we work with more partners, we see this kind of really growing. But the idea is to build the safest, most constructive piece for women on the internet.
Wow. And this is truly all the hacks you mentioned, right? About how we change our perspective of looking at what's work for all these communities. I think this is something which is truly insightful. And that's what you guys are on to.
Thank you. We are having lots of fun doing this.
Absolutely. And of course, let's hope to have you work with more and more partners, expand the base of the platform. And like you said, you're already outside of India as well.
Yes, so users found us, so now we have to find more of them.
Yes.
So you always start this way.
That's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right. Yeah. Thanks so much, Sairee, for doing this. Where do people connect with you, the platform? Tell us a little bit about...
the platform for women only is on Sheroes.com and on the Sheroes Android app on Play Store. So just download it and it takes you a second to sign in and get on board. I'm available on Twitter at Sairee and also on my personal website, SaireeChahal.com.
That's amazing.
And everybody, just a quick reminder, subscribe to our Slack channel. Go to the website, ivmpodcast.com/Shunya One. Over there's a button say subscribe to Slack. Send us your email address and we'll send you back a invitation. And also, please do a review or a rating on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, whatever you're listening to it. That kind of thing really does help.
And if people want to join our podcast here or join our Slack community, we'd love to have more and more folks from your communities as well.
We should give you a community there.
Yes,
yes,
why not?
Should.
I'm sure there are future podcasters and folks who listen to podcasts.
Absolutely. See, this is the power of community.
No, there is.
Never
There are
know
a lot
who
of
you're
people.
going to sort of inspire, and some of these creators will come. And,
And I'm sure it's something I'm sure folks are doing from home. They're already posting on YouTube. Soon they'll be podcasters.
Absolutely.
Probably.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you so much for doing this, Sairee. It was
Thank you
lovely.
for having me.
Long, long ago, not in Bethlehem, but in a place nearby, there was a wonderful birth of a huge show, which I like to call Sairee Says. A show that encapsulates everything in human history, from the first Homo sapien to the last Homo sapien, who's traversed the entire world and then come back to India. This is a show which tells you everything about everything. If you want to know, avoid Google, come to us. It's called Sairee Says. Get new episodes every Monday and Thursday on the IVM Podcast app, website, or wherever you get your podcasts from. It's simple as A, B, oh God, what comes after that?
Look! Up in the internet! It's a meme! No! It's a cat video! No! It's the Geek Fruit Podcast!
That's right. We interrupt this riveting broadcast to tell you about our show, The Geek Fruit Podcast, where Tejas, Dinkar, and I, Jishnu, talk about everything in pop culture, including DC, Marvel, Star Wars, Netflix, and everything in between.
You know how your friends hate it when you ramble about some nerdy crap and you just want somebody to listen to you? Well, sorry, there's nothing we can do about that, but come listen to us ramble and it'll almost be like the real thing. Kind of.
Listen to new episodes of the Geek Fruit Podcast every Monday and the Geek Fruit Bulletin every Thursday on iTunes, Google Podcasts, the IVM app, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Happy listening, you nerds.